Hey everyone, this is Norbert, and today I wanted to talk to you about the new Hecahands support. Now, you see on this playmat there is the fusion monster and the main deck monster, and if you saw the support, you know that there's also a trap card. I did not print that card out. You can probably figure out why that is. I don't think it's bad, it's just outclassed by the traps we already have, so it's not relevant for the combos we do right now. So me and my testing group, we have tried to figure out some combos with these. Now, obviously, this card is purely a going second card, so this was not relevant for the combos. And then we had this card and the trap. And first of all, we were a bit disappointed, but then we realized there's also other support. In Burst Protocol, there is Nightmare Hand. This is the pseudo support that they give deck building archetypes, which doesn't directly belong to the archetype, but it kind of belongs to it. So Nightmare Hand is a quick play spell that on activation sends an illusion monster from your deck to the graveyard, and as a graveyard effect, if you have a level 5 or higher illusion monster, you can banish this card and summon a monster from your opponent's graveyard, but banish it in the end phase. So you can only use one of these effects per turn, so you can't do both, which is a bit sad, but it's still a very, very powerful card. Foolish Burial upside for this deck, and the monster you steal can obviously be converted into Jawza. Now, another card that is coming out in Blazing Dominion is a very good target for this, and that is Transient Masquerader of Illusion. This is a level 8 illusion that, if it's summoned, normal or special, can send a Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard. And that is once per turn. And then the once per duel effect is you can actually summon this card from your graveyard by banishing a spell card. So if you get this in the grave with Nightmare Hand, you can just banish the Nightmare Hand to special this, and then you send whatever you want to the graveyard, and you can change this typing to whatever you send, which is not relevant for our combos, but I figure I mention it. And with these three cards, actually, we do have a bit of a change in the deck, so I wanted to show you some combos using these cards, and at the end I want to talk about what I think of the support. So let's hop into the first combo. So one of the main critique points of Hecahands obviously was that you had to hit with one of your big Hecahands to play, and that is a bit RNG. Of course, the Gygas has a very high chance of succeeding, but let's say you have this hand and you summon Gygas and you don't hit, you just end on nothing and you discarded a card. So the new card actually fixes that. So let's say we have the Nightmare Apprentice and the discard, and this is for pure Hecahands, so no Chimera stuff right now. We'll get into that later. I just wanted to give you a starting point for pure. If you want to mix it with something else, there's some interesting points in here. So you're going to summon the Nightmare Apprentice, and you're going to add the new Hecahands monster, Makibel. And then you can activate the Makibel to fuse it with the Apprentice, which is an illusion monster, to go into your Jawza. Now, Jawza can add you whatever you want. Let's say we add the hidden Hecahands, and you could activate the hidden Hecahands, send the Jawza, grab stuff, and then the Makibel would come back to hand. But depending on what you go into, you might not have a Hecahands on the board. If you decide to just set up the two traps, then you would have to normal summon or set anything you didn't normal summon yet, and then you go hidden Hecahands to get rid of that, and you're going to grab yourself a Yaddle and a trap. And then Yaddle can get back into the deck to grab yourself another trap, and that is a 2-trap setup without RNG. And you have 2 cards left in hand. Now, because you had to discard 2, I'm not the biggest fan of this combo, so I just wanted to show you that it's possible. But another thing we could do is, instead of getting the Yaddle and a counter trap with that, you could grab yourself an Iptal, use the Iptal, shuffle it back to actually go into your Gygas. Now, you already have set up a counter trap, but what you can do here is you could activate Gygas, try to hit, and if you hit, let's say we grab a Sylvia of the White Forest, this can be now treated as a level 8 for a zombie vampire. So if you mix Hecahands with whatever other archetype, you can now have a negate for spell trap or monsters, whatever you want, and you can get a zombie vampire to try and bridge into whatever you want from here. So that is just a pure line. As I said, it's not the one I'm most comfortable with. One thing to note, of course, is we have 2 cards in hand, but once we detach the Jawza for the zombie vampire, the Makibel will come back to your hand, so you can recoup some card advantage here. But as is, I wouldn't play this combo like this, but maybe there's a second engine that works really well with the zombie vampire or whatever you want to do with this. But let's hop into some more interesting combos. One big advantage of the new support is that you can actually choose to play Hecahands with just Chimera or just with Fiendsmith, as opposed to before where I played both. And this time we have a Nightmare Apprentice line which uses just the Chimera engine as a support. So let's start with Nightmare Apprentice. We discard a card, summon it, and that'll grab us an illusion monster. This time it's the Caudal. We discard the Caudal, grab the Gazelle, no one summon the Gazelle. If you're a Chimera player, you know this. And then you Chimera Fusion. And from here on out, you can summon your Baphomet. You're going to go chaining one Gazelle, because that's the important one, chaining two Baphomet. If they hand trap the Baphomet, your Gazelle can just grab Iptal, and then you Iptal into Gygas, and you play from there. But if they don't, you're going to send the Transient Masquerader with the Baphomet, and you're going to add a Yaddle. Now, before you grab back the Chimera Fusion, you try to resolve Yaddle, because this card needs to banish a spell from the grave. Right now we only have the Chimera Fusion, and Yaddle is going to grab you another one, but if they ash the Yaddle, you would be out of spells in the grave, and it's better to keep the flexibility that way, right? Maybe you want the Chimera Fusion, but maybe you want to revive this card. So let's revive the Yaddle, and we grab the Hidden Hecahands, and now we can safely grab back the Chimera Fusion, because even if our opponent ashes the Hidden Hecahands, then you still have a spell in the graveyard. So you're going to activate it, sending your Baphomet, and you're going to grab your Makibel, and you're going to set yourself your Tartaros, or anything you want. But in this line, I like Tartaros. So do this, and now we have this Tartaros set. Let's leave it open just so you can see it in the end port. And we're going to banish our Hidden Hecahands, not for its own effect, because that one is not good. We're going to summon the Masquerader of Illusion. On summon, this can then send a monster, any illusion monster or fiend, depending on what you want. Of course, this is a one-card combo, so we don't really profit off of it. If you play Master Tau, you can send Master Tau and revive the Apprentice if you like. In this version, I liked to keep it clean, so I'm just going to send an Iptal. It'll come in handy later. So now that we have an illusion on the field, we can use the Makibel to fuse with it, and we are going to make our Jawza. Now, Jawza can grab us a copy of Iptal, which you can then use to summon from our deck a Yaddle. Now we can link these two off into whatever you want. I like Cross Sheep, because Cross Sheep keeps our Chimera Fusion live. Note that Chimera Fusion is only activatable if you have a Fiend or a Beast, not illusions. So this would not be activatable right now, but we just made a Cross Sheep, and sending the Jawza triggers the Makibel to get back to hand, which is always nice. We have another fusion for next turn, or we have Chimera Fusion fodder. And here you have this set. You can set the Chimera Fusion, and that is your turn for now. You're going to pass to your opponent, and at any point you can go Tartaros to banish 3 of your Hecahands that are in your graveyard. You have exactly 3, and that'll summon the Xeno. And the Xeno triggers the Cross Sheep to resummon something. Let's say we grab a Gazelle, which on summon grabs us a Chimera Fusion or a Baphomet, and now we have fusion material galore. We can also Xeno to grab something from your opponent's extra deck, and then we can Chimera Fusion, fusing, for example, Baphomet and Gazelle and Makibel for a, where is it, Guardian Chimera. And then you'll get all these triggers. You're going to add an illusion, you're going to resummon an illusion, you're going to draw some cards, and since you banished your Jawza, at any point in your opponent's turn you can banish the Baphomet to bring it back, and then you have another search at the start of your next turn. So a lot of things going on here. Of course, you can do whatever you want. I like the Cross Sheep Tartaros line. You can just go and make more Hecahand stuff, like set the traps, or you could also grab Iptal to summon Gygas and just play from there. But this is just Chimera Hecahand stuff. Let's show you another combo. Now this combo is going to be interesting for the Genesis players, but also for Advanced Constructed. Just if you only have a Coadal, you can still one-card combo into something interesting. So you're going to go Coadal, send it to grab Mirror Sword Knight, of course. We have 4 hand traps in hand. We only have this one play. Normal summon the Mirror Sword Knight, and then tribute it to summon Big Wing Baphomet, which is going to grab you Chimera Fusion and Gazelle. And then you're going to fuse these two to summon the Chimera. And then you have some chain links. You're going to go Baphomet, target the Mirror Sword Knight to revive it. You're going to have Gazelle chaining 2, and you're going to chain block with the Chimera. And the Gazelle is going to grab you either a Nightmare Apprentice or a Macabell, depending on how much you value your hand or how much you value the Mirror Sword Knight on the board. So you can either just fuse with the Mirror Sword Knight, or you're going to go discard a card and leave the Mirror Sword Knight on the field. So let's go and take the Nightmare Apprentice. We have, let's say we have a Fuvalos. We're going to discard, grab the Macabell, and then we can fuse here into a Jawza, which can then grab you a Hidden Hecahands. You can use that, sending the Jawza, and you're going to add Iptal, and you're going to set a Tartaros. Sending the Jawza will trigger your Macabell. Come back. And now you can also, of course, grab back the Chimera Fusion. And that is going to be it for now. You activate the Iptal, putting it back into the deck, summoning your Yaddle. And if this is a counter trap, the counter trap is live because you have Yaddle on the field. But what I like to do is I'm going to set the Chimera Fusion, and you can actually activate the Chimera Fusion in your opponent's turn. You have a free monster here, right? Best case, you tribute the Mirror Sword Knight for another Chimera monster. But let's just go Chimera Fusion. Actually, it has to be, you have to tribute this because these are 3 illusions. So let's say you tribute this for a Gazelle, and then you go Chimera Fusion for a Guardian Chimera, pop 2. And since you put the Yaddle in the grave, it'll reset your Hidden Hecahands for next turn as follow-up, which is nice. And your Tartaros is live now to fuse these 3 monsters here into a copy of Xeno. And yeah, so you have a Guardian Chimera, you have the Xeno, which steals something from your opponent, you have the Chimera, which ripped a card from your hand, you have follow-up, you have Coatl and Sword Knight in the grave for more negation or protection. And this is generally a very solid board, even without the help of Fiendsmith Engraver. Speaking of Engraver, now this combo is a bit more on the spicy side. This is just Hecahands Fiendsmith without any Chimera, and the star of the show is Nightmare Hand. Now, you're going to activate the Nightmare Hand, and you're going to send the Masquerader. Now, Masquerader can summon itself back by banishing a spell, and then on summon it can send an illusion, spellcaster, or fiend. Now, before we just send illusion monsters, but we can actually send our old friend Sinister Necrom. Now, we can turn this into a fiend, doesn't really matter. We can banish the Sinister Necrom and special summon a Dusted Gold. And we can link this off into a Requiem, and then use Requiem to summon a Fiendsmith monster. Now, if you want to run a larger Fiendsmith package, this combo is going to be better into Nibiru, because this combo you will see at some point they can nib us, and that 1-card combo ends on nothing. But if you summon Lacrima, for example, and send a anything, then you can actually have some disruption while you still have 4 cards in hand. But this, I just wanted to show you the minimum. You summon the Engraver, and then you can link these 2 off into sequence, and then use the sequence, and we're going to fuse an illusion and a fiend. And you probably know where this goes. We can summon our Perfumit. Perfumit then can send Nightmare Apprentice, and what we do then, we bring back the Engraver, shuffling back our Requiem, and we can actually overlay these 2 for M7. You can also just make an Abau here, bring this back, but you're going to have more bodies if you do it like this. So M7, detach something, bring back the Apprentice, and now we can discard a card to summon the Apprentice, and that'll grab you a Macabell. Now, what you can do here is you can actually go and use the Macabell to fuse with the Apprentice to go into Jawza, and Jawza grabs you Hidden Hecahands. Now, before you activate Hidden Hecahands, this is a very cool part. You can link all of these off for Abau, and that'll trigger Macabell, because our Jawza has hit the grave. Now we have Macabell in hand, and now we can use Abau's effect to discard the Macabell, banishing itself, and let's bring back our good friend Engraver. Now, the Engraver is on the board, and for the second cool part of this combo is you can equip the sequence here to this Engraver, and then you can send it with the Hidden Hecahands for free, so you keep up our card advantage. We're going to grab an Iptal, and we're going to set anything you want. Again, I like Tartaros. And then you can use the Iptal. You can go into your Gygas here and play more like this, but what I like to do is just go into Yaddle, And then we have 2 level 6s that we can overlay here for, let's say, Evolza Lars. And that'll be it for the combo right now. We still have 3 cards in hand. We have Lars. We have 1 card set. And in the end phase, we're going to get back a bow. Now, at any point where we use our Lars, we detach 2, negate something, then our Yodel will trigger, setting us our hidden Hecahands, which is nice, follow-up, but also it'll make it so that we have 3 Hecahands in our graveyard, so we can use Tartaros to banish all of them, again, to make our Xeno. The Hecahands on the field. Xeno can steal something from opponent's graveyard, a bow can revive or pop a card, and we have the Baphomet in the grave to banish in the end phase, for example, to bring back our Jawza if you want, and then Jawza can search in the opponent's turn. So this is how we can actually combine the Fiendsmith and the Hecahands engine without playing a full Chimera package. You can of course play a big engine pile with all 3 of them, but I just wanted to show you that the Nightmare hand actually has a lot of potential. Of course, this combo looks a bit weak into hand traps, but generally this is a fusion deck. You will have more cards. For example, if your opponent nibs you and you have any illusion monster in your hand, you can summon that illusion monster and the nib token is owned by your opponent, so you can make Jawza that way. So that is it for the Fiendsmith line, and let's get into the review. So what do I think of these cards? Now, I already told you about the trap card, so again, that is just an option you can play, but I'm not the biggest fan. For the other cards, I'm just going to count these as Hecahand support as well, even though this comes out 1 set earlier. This is in the same set. So this card, Makibal, in my opinion, is a big boost because you are no longer relying on RNG, but also something I didn't do yet is, or I showed it in the first combo, is it allows you, because now you have a fusion here, but also you can fuse into Jawza, grab one of your big guys, or Iptal, summon the big guy, and then you have Jawza and an opponent's monster, so you can go Zombie Vampire. That was possible before if you resolved both of the big guys, Breos and Gygas, not the best combo. Now you actually have a Zombie Vampire line that works. And then also what's nice here is it doesn't play into something like Retaliating Sea. You can just summon with this. And its card advantage is reoccurring, which is very nice in both versions actually. Chimera likes to have the fusion material, Abao likes to have the discard fodder. And then for the Dandalos, it looks a bit weird because it is not a disrupt, it is damage, because this can make it so that your Hecahands fusion monsters and monsters that you stole from your opponent can attack directly. That is actually very relevant. If you are not on a Fiendsmith line where you can OTK with the Agnum Day, you know the thing, Agnum Day, Lacrima, and then attack, bring it back, and damage. If you don't run that, then it's sometimes very hard to win with this deck because your opponent, if they know what they're doing, they're just going to put their monsters into a defense, and none of your illusions can run over them, and you're just not going to deal damage. Now you actually have a win con. Your opponent walls you, you summon this, you steal something from them, you turn it into attack, and then you go poke poke, and your third Hecahands monster hopefully will seal the deal. So actually a relevant monster, and of course it helps breaking boards because you target a monster and try to steal it. And then the Masquerader, this is generally very good illusion support, so I can see a world where you just play this package without any Hecahands in Chimera and just do shenanigans with it. Like, this gets you into Chimera engine because you can send the Fiendsmith engine as I did before, and you have an illusion and a Fiend Engrave, and you just make Baphomet that way. And also Nightmare Hand as Graveyard Hate is nice. Of course has more synergy with Hecahands, but these cards are very, very good. I don't know if I would play them in a pure Hecahand Chimera version because this is not a one-card starter in that line, in the deck, or I haven't seen it yet, but generally very, very strong cards. So would that make Hecahands meta? Of course, there's still 2 ban lists for us until that point, so it's hard to say, but I think Hecahands still is too reliant on playing bricks. You need to run traps to interrupt your opponent. You need to run Gygas, at least for Iptal to be live. And that is a big detriment to the stake. Now, of course, where this deck has top tier potential, in my opinion, is Genesis, because you don't need your link monsters. Like Fiendsmith is optional. I showed you the Coatl line, which is very, very strong for Hecahands in Genesis, and generally, like, the board in Genesis was already very good. You ripped a card from your opponent's hand, had 2 counter traps. Sometimes you rip 2 cards from your opponent's hands. It's very hard to beat that already. And now you also have a win con going second, just killing your opponent. So that is actually where I see Hecahands more. Not the most promising outlook, but it is not a terrible deck. It is just, it needed a bit more support. Maybe we'll get a Memento Wave, who knows, but for that, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.